We are going to round out the front end of the awards by doing a big one. Again, we're borrowing this concept from the Oscars, which likes to throw in a major category somewhere in the middle, just when people are getting bored with like best editing. It's like, ooh, I want to know who the gaffer was on this movie. Let's go with a big one. News story of the year for 2024. I'm going to rattle off a bunch of them here real fast. A recent one, Bashar al-Assad's ouster and the liberation of Syria from his dictatorship. Strong early entry. Number two, Israel kills terrorists, but the war continues. Israel pulled off a unique and truly unprecedented pager and walkie-talkie attack on Hezbollah with synchronized blasts that eliminated most of Hezbollah leadership, including their overall leader, Syed Hassan Nasrallah, in September, followed up by killing Hamas leader. And even though there was the ongoing war in Gaza, the elimination of the Hezbollah leadership is still having ramifications and may have very long-term significance. Number three, we marked 1,000 days of the war in Ukraine this year. And number four, Donald Trump survives an assassination attempt. And I guess, should we separate it? I've seen this cited online as one thing. Is this two things or is it one thing?
It's two things.
Okay, so we'll do it as two things. Donald Trump survives an assassination attempt, and Donald Trump wins the White House. Two entries. We have again, a recent entry, the dramatic imposition of martial law for 6 hours in South Korea, a world democracy faltering for 6 hours, and the fallout that is continuing from that. We have the broader story of turmoil in democracies, especially Western democracies, including in the UK, France, Germany, and the United States. And then finally, a business entry for a short time in June. NVIDIA became the world's most valuable company with a market capitalization of $3.34 trillion, putting it ahead of Apple, Microsoft, and Google parent Alphabet. Those are my entries for news story of the year. What do you guys think? Paul, you're up.
It was certainly a surprise in terms of what happened in Syria. And I thought what happened in South Korea was pretty dramatic. Trump is the expected winner. But I think that that chaos in the 21st century has caught up with us. And that chaos has produced a spasm of regressive right-wing uprising, far-right parties in France, Germany, UK, and ultimately that, I think, spells real importance for the world and where we're going to go in 2025. So that I'm going to say it's the turmoil in democracies and the real threat globally to democratic institutions.
A lot of these are really huge. The attempt on Trump's life, winning the White House, what happened in South Korea, which is not my choice, what's amazing is it shows how democracy works. That was a good example of democracy. The president did something he shouldn't have done. The people spoke, and their version of Congress spoke and pushed back on it and regained control. I think the biggest news is Assad's ouster and quote unquote liberation of Syria, because this is an ongoing story. His family ruled for 50 years with an iron fist. Brutal stories are coming out now that we couldn't even hear before because it would happen to them if they told. So the at least temporary liberation of Syria, I think, is massive news. I think it's a little scary as what's to come. The person that took over is someone who is part of an offshoot of al-Qaeda. Iran's weakened. That can be good. That can also be dangerous for the rise of Islamic terrorism. There's a lot to watch there, and that's probably, in my opinion, the biggest news story.
I think that's a very solid point. And both of you are speaking to the fact that there's a real we'll see to all of these news stories of the year. There's very little in this list that is resolved. If you go down the list, every single one is a check back with me in a month, in 3 years, in 6 years. Which way is it going to go in Syria? We don't know. Which way is it going to go? It seems like an awfully good thing that Hezbollah has been pushed back and Iran's influence has been weakened so greatly. Does it create the conditions for a grand deal with Saudi Arabia? That would be amazing if so. Check back with me in a couple of years. I guess I'm going to go with Paul's entry by a nose, but I think I'm just going to give my nod to this general idea of we really don't know which way things are going to tilt. We will see as our constitutional republic is put to the test by Donald Trump yet again and under a much more severe set of test conditions. I don't know what this is going to look like in a year, but I think you combine the points that both of you made, that maybe this is a good news story, but maybe it's a broader theme of let's see how democracy around the world responds as we see this uprising of reactionary forces, populist tendencies, fueled by the reaction to the turmoil of the COVID pandemic, rising prices, a feeling of alienation, stagnation, and dislocation that's caused a lot of unhappiness in Western democracies and worldwide democracies. That to me feels like the story of the year.